Our story doesn't start with a playable character or even a side, rather it starts with a random worker in the crew of the Black Noah and his loyalty that blinded him to the megalomaniac that is his boss. Rugal is a force to be reckoned with, politically and in martial arts. On a bad day, Rugal could just jump in a military base in Brazil and put 50 men in a shirt, the same base that Adel resided. That's how he lost his eye to this powerhouse. He's the perfect role model if you're looking for ambition, mastery, dominance. And don't think that this person doesn't know about Rugal's peculiar habit of creating humanoid statues. He's actually the one in charge of polishing the statue. While doing it so, he even imagines how strong were these fallen warriors. Rugal wouldn't create a statue of any weakling, but then it comes the day where 3 warriors got to the finals of the tournament, and they were giving him a tough time, but nothing to be worried about until this happened. Code's off, code red. The protocol tells us when that code comes off to evacuate the area. This person was the last to leave the Black Noah. He couldn't believe his eyes, the peak of human condition being surpassed by a kid going all out in every move. But it was time to leave. But running to the escape pod, he heard something. 2 kids in the Black Noah? Who are these children? And why are they forgotten inside the submarine? He took the kids and ran to the escape pod. And right before his eyes, it was over. The man that he saw build an empire with his own hands lost everything in what he considers just to be a propaganda tour for his strength. He contacted everybody aboard the Black Noah. He couldn't find this kid's parents. But then he finally realized, watching TV, of course, blonde, deep red eyes. These kids were the only inheritors from Adel Bernstein's legacy, and he was bestowed with the will to make this happen in any means possible. In 1991, Capcom created the most influential fighting game ever made, Street Fighter 2. And more important, these characters became overnight behemoths in pop culture. Do we want to see Jackie Chan dressed as Chun-Li? Here goes Jean-Claude Van Damme playing Guile in a Street Fighter movie? Kenya Sawada as Captain Sawat? Chun-Li as Nicki Minaj? Pinballs, Toyline, Saturday morning cartoons, anime, manga. But wait, you heard that? How rare it is for audio design to actually become a central iconic piece of game. Even my grandma calls every woman fighting Chun-Li, and once in a while says, what I think it's so iconic about this is how this ended up influencing every other company of trying to recreate this lightning in the bottle. Fighter's history is one that comes to mind. The way these characters say their moves, one balloon, and you're set for life. This thing sticks to you like generational trauma, boy. It gets to a point where they gotta be trying their hardest to come up with the silliest pronunciation. And with that, I want to pose a question for the audience. Can you see something like out of place with this? You can look everywhere, then and now. Isn't there something we are missing? This video was inspired by one of my commenters. Look at this comment. It's perfect. It encapsulates this whole video so well. When Adelheid first appeared as a boss in KOF in 2003 with the name Bernstein, you already sit forward. That's Rugal's son, the most iconic villain in this franchise. In a blink of an eye, you're transported to 94, 95, where Rugal would run through your team with ease, instantly anti-air every single jump. Just the fact that Adel is rocking the black fit, nah, it's about to go down. But Adel is a character that the vast majority of the community pities him. Everything that he does seems like a downgrade from what his father does. Eric Pukin being thrown with his feet. It just looks overcomplicated. It feels slower. It actually is slower. His normals are kind of weird. He doesn't really have a grounded anti-air. Because his down C is kind of slow and the hitbox is not good. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know about his jab. With that said, you would probably air to air, right? His buttons are kind of hollow, right? D is sloppy. His D is kind of sloppy if compared to other characters with incredible priority. His his God Press doesn't have the explosion, but only when you invest 2 bars it actually has this cool explosion. Having to invest a bar on the Geno Cutter, and it's not even the double? Alright, who brought this sorry ass kid to a fight? Hey Jimmy, give me a Rugal with nothing. Nothing? He's inoffensive, harmless, a sub-boss, a nobody, some character that doesn't even pose a threat against us. To be Rugal's son, you gotta feel the boots of being a menace. Thus, anyone that doesn't pose a threat cannot be Rugal's son. But that's exactly what SNK wanted. If we look through SNK Wiki, this character has no backstory. Because you don't read his story, you experience it. Adelheid is not a normal character at all. He's a kid that his entire life was trained ruthlessly to be his father. And with his father being the strongest human being in the history of the King of Fighters, those are no easy shoes to fill in. Don't you feel that it's weird how it doesn't matter which command you do, this character always answers in the same manner? Just like Terry fixes his hat when he's not with it anymore. Affirming to his trainer is a trauma response to failing a move. He doesn't know the name of these moves. A wind fist done with his feet? He only knows how to execute them. He's not himself. He's a shell of some other fighter that he never met. In his original 99 concept art, it's peculiar how his team would include Sarah or Whip, a character. Well, what you see? This character was abused to the brink to become a fighter, but not any fighter, the pinnacle of human condition. Rugal, only by fighting people and seeing their moves, he would convert their moves to his arsenal. Nothing less than a genius would be enough to fill his shoes. And in the same way, Adel never saw his father, but he has to implement his moves into his arsenal. In an old video of mine, I said a line like this when I was talking about Shunei's fashion. Can your character cry in his windscreen, Harada? Can your character be himself unapologetically? SNK already knew the answer even before creating Shunei. Who would be such a heartless monster to train a kid with body punishment? Well, if you sit quiet and listen, you would probably know that the person that abused this kid still giving him commands to this day. The only survivors of the Black Noah explosion were us. The only person that knows about the statues, the only person that idolizes this megalomaniac, the only ones that know this kid's past are also the same ones forcing this kid to become his father. He's responding to us, the player. Realize that if SNK wanted to create the strongest character, they could have gave us Superman. At the time they were designing these characters, they were trying to create new characters that would subvert our expectations. You know, Rock, Ash. But no, they delivered us a kid that can't even do a Geno Cutter right. And if you do any move wrong, here comes the punishment. So you better learn the Kaiser Wave, a move that only Inhumans were capable to execute. Adel being his own character, that was never an option, because like a tiger father, we already invested our expectations on what Rugal's son should be. Are you really designing something when you always deliver exactly what people are thinking? He could have been a great martial artist, maybe create his own moveset, but no, he will live in his father's shadow for as long as we wanted to. And that's the beauty of audio design in fighting games. SNK in 2003 noticed that we had the technology for years to put voices in our games. Something that radio soap operas used to tell stories. That sonnets carried our history when we didn't have paper. That theaters used to paint a character's personalities. But in fighting games, they were only a mere way to name a move. But the moment they decided to use this character's voice for something as simple as the same exact function it served for plenty of years, storytelling, that's when they elevated these characters. The presence of a move's name tells you a lot about the fighter. The absence of these moves also tells you a lot about this fighter. You look at Plus Blue with the dynamic voice lines in combat. It fails in comparison to this because it looks bloated. You invested so many lines to tell this story. They hate each other. The story that Adel told with one line encapsulate the minimalistic storytelling that fighting games are known for. If I were to teach somebody about the effective use of lines, what is more effective than experience this whole story with one line? SNK sent this character knowing we would reject him. His design embodies this rejection, since his story predicts our reception, and since the fanbase answered accordingly, the character builds on its own prophecy. But even with that rough training, what is beautiful is that we couldn't crush his soul. If you know Adel, somehow this character is still an honorable fighter. He still keeps his end of the bargain. He has a sense of morality. He doesn't show bitterness or a sense of revenge against the guy that killed his father, or even his own father. The only thing that this character needs to be the best version of himself is for you to listen. What if Gohan never had a family, every friend of his died, and he locked in on training to save Earth? That's the video. Thank you for watching. Bye.